Welcome back, brothers, to the 801st Legion podcast, a Star Wars Legion podcast. Today, we're going to take a retrospective look at two of our favorite old vehicles and see where are they now. So without further ado, punch it, Kyle.
Hello there.
You must unlearn
Dark
what you
side
have
of the
learned.
Force is a pathway to many abilities.
Red,
some
green, or
considered
red, green, red.
I know.
You know what you'll do?
Sorry about the mess.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
General Kenobi.
Let's rearrange some architecture.
Is it possible to learn this power?
I thank you for your hospitality.
Twice the pride, double the fall.
Impressive.
I'll show you the dark side.
We are back. Okay, sorry.
I almost thought there wasn't going to be that today. I thought we were just going to have a nice, gentle, you've arrived at your destination on Hoth exterior.
Bing bong. Now boarding. Flight 201 to Hoth.
It's just Star Tours. What if we just completely rebranded? The entire podcast is now Star Tours themed. Yeah, it's Star Wars themed now?
We'd have to start talking in the voice of that stupid robot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. So like Rex, the droid. Fun. Do you know who that is? Like he was the old pilot. Like he was the wacky one.
Yeah.
So they took him out when they redid Star Tours at Disneyland, but he still lives on. He is now the DJ at the cantina. So
apparently he lost his job, and now he had to take up his passion project.
Fell on some hard times, but now he's DJ Rex, and you can buy little toys of him and everything. So next time you're at Disneyland, whenever that is going to be.
Hopefully sometime soon. I did hear Disney started recalling employees, so hopefully that bodes well.
Yeah, I have a few friends that are still waiting for some more information because they've been wanting to stick with the company for a while, but you can only wait so long,
Yeah, furloughed for over a year it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang that.
Speaking of
Ovid K.
the thing that shall not be named. Yeah, wrong podcast. But speaking of Star Tours, we're talking about some other Star Wars vehicles today.
Oh yeah, we may be touring around some other things,
Transporting some things, That's for sure.
Yes, transporting. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. So the reception was pretty positive on our last video, or last episode, I should say, of Luke Skywalker Commander version. So we wanted to since it's kind of a slower news week again, we're just going to do the same thing, but for a couple of heavy boys. The ATST and the Gav tank particularly.
Yeah, this is going to be a super fun retrospective look, especially because as new people come into the community, I find that they always gravitate towards the big vehicles. And people who are maybe fans of the old trilogies, whatever, they want to play Empire, they want to play Rebels. So giving these units a look is fantastic, especially because we've seen a lot of Gav and ATST play in our local community recently.
Yeah.
So kind of a fun time to talk about it, see where are they now, how are they performing, and what are they doing.
Yeah, I think the first thing, if we're going to approach it from the same angle, I mean, I guess we can't really because there's nothing to compare them to, like Operative Luke to Commander Luke. But if we're talking like strictly like what has changed, what's the biggest change to these vehicles now as opposed to when they first came out?
Oh man, it's definitely got to be like the upgrades and the units around them, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I would have to say it's probably that. I mean,
so go into detail on what you mean by that.
So one of the interesting things about the vehicles is they can take pilots and they can take crew upgrades, and they can usually take comms upgrades. So anytime a new comms upgrade or a new pilot for a faction comes out, it kind of breathes a little bit of new life into a vehicle, or at least gives you another angle to approach those vehicles.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of thinking about these two with the upcoming releases and all the stuff we have that we know about them.
Yeah.
And also with a little bit of slight errata to how the transport has changed with the Gav and what that could mean for other units.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And that comes with those new units and like how they've, made that transport keyword perform a little bit differently, or at least clarified, so they can have more options in the future. I think personally, a big deal about it would be the point cost too. Like, it can't be ignored that these got significant point decreases. I mean, maybe not as drastic as something like the T-47, but still enough point decreases to make it a little bit more interesting. Your ATST is no longer Palpatine, you know? Nor should it be, because they don't perform the same on the table.
Not quite. Not even close.
Imagine if your ATST just has, and now you will die. Like, mechanized incursions. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't we start with the good old boy, the ATST. Do you play him at all anymore?
Not so much, since I've focused a little bit more on other armies. In fact, I did play him for like 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even a month after I first got him, and he was a lot of fun. But back then, when you fully kitted him out, man, he was so expensive for the army.
Yeah.
And with the objectives being super trooper focused at the time, it just was not very helpful for him.
And that's another thing too. The game has shifted a lot of objectives and scenarios and conditions, for that matter, that help vehicles have a place to be. You know, I think back to when Alex Davey was on the what was that, the Legion Outrider podcast that he was talking about, where he talked about like how the AAT and the Saberclass tank it kind of came out like the perfect time, because not only were those units like finally the units that should be like the standard for a vehicle, but it also came out with like wonderful objective cards and deployments that vehicles can really make meaningful impacts on, and that didn't exist when you first got the ATST.
Yeah, I think really we ended up playing Battle Lions a ton at the time, where it was like major offensive, try and get the ATST close enough.
Yeah.
But now you can be like, rollout. Dude, that ATST is shooting you to turn 1, and it sees all. Like,
Yep.
It's still the Iosaur on.
Yeah, why don't you walk us through its card?
Yeah, absolutely. So Kyle has the points up here. So do you want to remind us what the points value is now?
Yeah, current point cost is 160 points.
That's crazy, because so right here, looking at the card, it used to be 195.
Yeah.
195 is crazy. But going on, it's a heavy unit. It has armor, arsenal 2, weak point, rear for its keywords. 11 health, 8 resilience, white dice saves, surge defense, speed 2, movement. So pretty good. And as far as its upgrade slot, it's got a pilot slot, 3 hardpoint slots, and a comp slot. It's got a melee weapon that is 4 red dice. Really not bad at all. That's like lightsaber pretty much. And then it has its MS4 twin blaster cannons, range 1 to 4, 2 red, 2 black, 2 white, fixed front, impact 3. Pretty big boy here.
Yeah, no, you might say that.
Yeah.
One of my, I don't know. One of the things I think about most with these keywords is the arsenal keyword that the ATST had. Because if correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the first unit in the game to actually have that keyword. How has that evolved, and how has that benefited the ATST? I mean, this 2 years later.
I actually feel like the arsenal keyword is it's kind of its bread and butter, because Arsenal 2 means you can equip it with the laser cannons, which is probably the one you're going to take the most, because that adds another rainbow, so it means you're shooting triple rainbows, but you're not really splitting fire all that much. I mean, it's funny because the Arsenal keyword used to be so
devastating.
so much of exactly a meme thing, because you used to take all the hard points. And then you'd be like, I'm shooting at this range here, I'm shooting at this range here, I'm shooting at this range here, and I'm shooting really close or meleeing here.
Yeah.
But you're not doing that nearly at all.
Right, because I remember we were talking about this, and we were talking about pilots not too long ago, and it was like, oh, why would you not take, or is it the Hammer Elite that gives it Arsenal 4? Or General Vice?
General Vice, yeah.
Yeah. So General Vice gives it Arsenal 4, but then the Hammer Elite gives it what? Surge to crit?
Surge to hit.
Oh, Surge to hit, yeah. Because it normally just has Surge to defense, right? On white saves, so 1 in 3 chance, right? Yeah, it's interesting because I would think, because I mean, I only play against it. I've never played with it. And the times I have, when my opponent has used Arsenal 4, I'm like, crap, this thing sucks. But you, on the other hand, you're like, no, you never take that.
Yeah, I really don't think so. Because, like, early game, you can definitely, if you take all 4 of the weapons, you're not using all of them every turn. Because turn 1, you'll probably use 2. maybe 3 if you can get to range. Well, no, if you get to range 3, you're still only using 2 because they're at a weird range where you've got the mortar is 4 to beyond. So turn 1, you can still get 2 weapons at range 4, but then turns 2 and 3, when you're at range 3, you're using the twin laser cannons, and then the other one, the grenade launcher, is 1 to 2. So at most, maybe late game you're using 3 weapons, but like at that point, like if you why would you pay the points just to use the mortar launcher once when you can take shore troopers and deal out suppressive even earlier?
Yeah, I get that. I guess my thinking is like, I get the idea behind the philosophy of why people would be inclined to take that, because I do agree with you once it's talked through. I'm like, yeah, that's very valid. Those are valid points for sure. I think the idea of people that take it or take General Vice is like, okay, mid game they understand like round 1 you're not getting every shot, but by the point you get to mid game, the ATST is on a middle objective. It has enemy troops that are moving up that are going to be in those closer ranges, but you also have like the snipers and the backlines that are going to need to be dealt with, and the ATST can really wreak havoc on that. And I'm not saying that's the wrong way to do it, because obviously it works for some people, but I agree with you. It's not as impactful as just having Surge to hit on like your 2 guns that really do matter. And I don't know. I also see a problem when a tank or when a heavy is up front, up close and personal, when it has white saves, because I guess it's a hot take, but like I kind of wish that they could errata that on the ATST. I don't know if that's the wrong way to think, but that's just because if we're saying the ATS or if we're saying the AAT and the Saber class tank are like the golden standard, they have red defense dice. Now, they also have access to so much more tools for sure. I don't know. It's this weird spot. Like, does the ATST need because it has armor, of course. We all know that. But, like, does it have the defensive capability that a tank should have if it's going to be up in the front lines? That's really what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I think that's such an interesting point, considering, like, the front lines for it is most of the map because it's so tall. Everybody in the world's going to see it. Like, you can get an arc strike team could just see the top of the head, and then boom, critical 1 lethal.
Yeah,
that's a pierce. That's a wound. I think mostly, like, I agree. I would say something might have to change with it. Granted, it's a very fine line to walk, because you're not wrong when you say like the Saber class and the AAT. 9 saves, 9 health at red saves is a lot more sometimes than white dice saves. It just is, because with crits you're almost guaranteeing like, okay, well, I'm going to take something here.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you always will, but you know, if you're taking 3 wounds through crit, like through armor, and you roll white dice, like 3 white dice, you're probably saving 1 statistically, but we all know white dice saves, you're probably saving none.
Right.
Whereas with red dice saves, you can probably effectively guarantee almost 2 saves.
Yeah,
and if you've got surges, even more. Like,
I've gone into games where the opponent will roll a whole Death Trooper squad at my Saber class tank. They roll 2 crits. Well, I'll just roll 2 blocks. It's easy. Granted, sometimes it doesn't always work like that, but that'll never happen with the ATST. The Empire isn't built on hope. That's not how the phrase goes.
Those are the other guys, right? Yeah,
them other guys.
Them other guys.
Yeah, it's just weird too, because when you talk about like what the ATS or the AAT, what the AAT and the Sabercross tank have above it, it's not just red saves. It's access to what they have. AAT has amazing token control. It has order control. It gets those orders like it's nothing. It's easy. You can decide exactly when you're going to go. The Saber class tank, if you want, has access to dodge tokens from clone troopers, but we can't forget Padme's existing, you know? So imagine shooting twice with your 1 tank.
It also has outmaneuvers, so you're like, oh,
exactly.
You saw crits at me? Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, but I still have more crits? I also have surge. I've red saves, but I'm using Padme's surges, so...
Yeah, I have Padme's reliable to count on. It's just so insane.
Yeah.
And I love it. I think that's like those 2 tanks, while they're threatening, they should be. they're devastating units. They cost a whole lot. Granted, the ATST, yeah, it's like what 50 points cheaper. So I get it, but I feel like if we're talking about like a heavy standard, I guess we're gonna see more of like those newer ideals come with the A or the lat. I guess that's kind of where we're gonna get it, because those cards look. We've already been over that in a prior episode, but those cards look like it has like that new standard involved with it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, like it's definitely up to par. And the more we're talking about this, I just kept thinking like, well, the newer vehicles have critical, and critical does a ton for those vehicles. Like I think about the AAT, you're throwing, because you're gonna take your high energy shells, whatever, so you can get your range and your high velocity. But when you shoot that gun and you have your arsenal, you're throwing 6 reds and a white, critical 3.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot you're getting through on cover. The ATST does have the height going for it, so most of the time you should be seeing over cover, unless your guys are like hiding around buildings. But I wonder if that's a tiny change that might help the ATST in the future, is just give it like critical 1 or something on a gun.
Yeah,
critical
and
2 on a gun. Just because like the mortar or the tiny grenade launcher has blast on it, which is great, but it only has impact 3, and impact 3 is amazing against other vehicles. You're throwing a lot of dice, especially because you're probably taking the laser cannon, so you're throwing triple rainbow, and you probably have LTAs on it, so you've got your aim token, you're rolling, you're probably taking the Hammer Elite, so you've got Search to Hit, so you're probably getting a lot of hits through. Well, Armab is the other pilot, but
yeah. That's right.
I don't think anybody ever uses him.
What does he do?
He's the one that gives you tactical.
Oh yeah,
and
I
that's,
don't see that, because if you're running ATSTs, you're usually running Veers, and Veers is kind of giving you those aims.
You could do that. You could also run a generic and do it.
Yeah, that's true.
There is a case now to take Price. I don't know if Price goes on the ATST though. So much.
Oh right.
But she could.
Like, what are you talking about? Price isn't in the game yet. You're right. She comes with the lat.
Right? Yeah. She really could.
Okay, so here's a question I want to pose to you, because what you said actually kind of struck me a little interestingly. We're talking about these newer words and these new units that, I mean, let's face it, are a symptom of power creep, right? They're like, we always want bigger and better things. Is the solution to make old units viable always going to be, well, let's just decrease the points? And if so, at what point does that become null and void, because newer things are going to come out, and that means the AAT and the Saberclass tank are also going to get point decreases, you know?
Oh, you mean like the new standard eventually will become like the old hotness kind of thing?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and I think the way they handled the T-47 was perfect.
Yeah.
Where they made some slight rules changes where they were noticing, okay, this is really hampering these other units. Like, even if you're an Empire player, you've at least got your speeder bikes benefiting from that too, which is really
like
nice.
The compulsory move comes to mind. Like, changing that alone helped those units a lot.
I just don't know where you would change. I don't know if there's any rules like that would help the ATSD, because I actually don't think it's in a terrible place. Because if you take the Hammer Elite Pilot and you take the laser cannon, at a range 3 shot, you're getting 5.6 hits through. But then you got to take cover into effect. I don't know. Like, maybe you'd go the T-47 route and you just hard a rat of the card, and you give it like it needs this keyword or something.
Yeah.
Because it has its height, has the speed 2. But I think if you give it like just critical 1 or critical 2, I think you immediately up the value of that vehicle a lot more, especially to make it compete against other vehicles, because critical happens before impact. So
yeah,
there are ways of
yeah, it's very true.
Work.
I wonder if also, like you had mentioned, like a weapon, like how awesome would it be to get like an upgrade card pack for units that need some little TLC, you know? Like, I know Wookiees are getting a new unit to do that for them, but like I don't see them releasing a new ATST. I mean, I guess they could if they do that earlier variant that you see in Rebels. I forget what it's called.
Oh yeah, I think it's like the DP, the ATDP or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they could if they wanted to do that, and then they could make weapons like for both. That might be a solution, but I almost see them just doing like sometime down the road doing like an upgrade card pack for these units that just need some love. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe it comes with a trooper upgrade that, you know, makes fleet troopers a little different, you know.
I agree. Maybe you give it like, I think that's right.
Or
way
maybe
to
not.
go.
It would be it wouldn't have to have minis. It would have to be like card based, so like maybe a different weapon or something. I don't know. Anyways, so we got to keep it moving. We are short on time today, but that before we move on to the Gav tank, we want to quickly kind of go over with the ATST. Like, when do you run that? When do you run the ATST? We kind of touched on it before, but in today's meta or even just like play space, when do you run the ATST?
It's definitely a meta call. Is like you can still make 10 activation lists with the Empire, but at that point you got to realize that most of your army is going to come down to the ATST, maybe one of your Spec Ops troopers, and then the commander you choose to run. So,
but I wanted Palpatine ATST and 10 activations. You can't tell me I can't do that.
you actually probably still could do it.
All stormtroopers?
Yeah, all probably naked storms, and then actually, yeah, you could probably still do that. But it's definitely a meta call. I think you're taking it because you're anticipating a lot of armor, a lot of just droids maybe even, because you do have dice saturation, and if you're getting 5.6 hits through before cover, you are probably able to wipe entire squads, and that's something that you really need right now.
But then you're shooting the droids, which is exactly what your opponent wants you to do.
It's also what you have to do. Like, it feels bad, but you gotta do it.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, so let's move on to the Gav a little bit. I mean, a lot of things are going to be similar. So the point cost currently for the Gav is 145. What was it before?
So for Mr. Gavi tank, it was 155. So it's not as much.
Not
of a
as
drop.
drastic, yeah.
Yeah.
It was already kind of cheap. Let's be real. I think I'm gonna say this right now, and then we could talk about it and like clarify or go over it. I think one of the biggest problems, I've expressed this before, I think one of the biggest problems with the Gav is its base. I think having a pill base is so awkward. It's if you have experience with it, it's not as often. But like I can't tell you how many times when I play an opponent, they're like, "Oh yeah, I got the Gav. I'm going to try it out today." They just wedge themselves in a place where they can be not effective at all.
Oh, like yeah, I get you.
Get in between two buildings, like, okay, well, I'm just going to go on this side out of your arc, so now you can't pivot. So I'm going to shoot your troopers now. Thanks.
Yeah, it's definitely setting it up can be very difficult, can't it?
Yeah.
I do think depending on the table, like it can also be extremely strong.
Yeah, because you had, I feel like what would be considered a hot take is you like the space where the Gav is at right now.
I do. Out of the two vehicles here, I still think the ATSD needs to be getting a little bit more looks. I think some people are sleeping on it, but I think the Gav right now has some amazing potential, especially heading forward. And me and some of the guys in the community, you as well, have been talking about this, where the transport gives you a lot more options, especially
Absolutely.
Especially now that, like, with the rules changes, I mean, your points are errated, you're getting the new onboard comm slot. All these things, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, are going to help a ton. But I'll break down real quick the card for us, just so we can get into it.
Yeah.
But so it's the TX225 GAV-W Occupier Combat Assault Tank. Oh, that is a long name.
Why? Why is it so long?
I'm just going to call it the GAV, yeah.
I never even thought about that before. Is that the longest name in the game?
Yeah, I mean, it takes up 2 lines. 2 lines for the name.
Imagine if we called it General Peacekeeper Persuader Kenobi, the hero of the Republic.
AKA Negotiator.
Negotiator. I don't know why I said Peacekeeper.
Right?
Anyways.
Yeah, anywho, it's a heavy. It's 145 for points. Armor, Arsenal 2, Reposition, Transport 1 open. Weak size 1. 8 health, 6 resilience, red dice saves. It has a pilot slot, a hard point, a comm slot. And then it has its 1-2 weapon is forward twin MK2VW cannons. That is the name. Very long.
What's with this Gav?
It's very long-winded.
I'm not going to lie. I'm falling asleep listening to its upgrade cards.
I feel like I'm back in class right now.
As you can see on the board, you'll have your Gav upgrade card. Yeah.
Mr. Malovich, wake up. 1-2, a red and a black suppressive for the first weapon. Fixed front, by the way. Not terrible, but the dice are all right. And then it has its lateral quad cannons, which is 1-4, 2 red, 2 black, impact 2, fixed front.
Okay.
And it moves at speed 1. But let's be real, it's not really speed 1 because that base size.
Yeah, it's speed 4.
It's really fast. All right, so kind of getting back to the discussion.
Imagine if they
here.
did give it more than speed 1. Like, that'd just be ridiculous.
We're gonna find out soon with the Rebels.
Yeah, that's true. Speed 2, right?
Yeah, and then there's that pilot that lets you compulsory and ram people.
Imagine being like just dropping R2 off and getting secret mission round 1. That's
then
gonna be so weird.
And hopping back in and being like, deuces.
See ya. I got
Well.
shielded now.
See you later. Yeah.
And then you can heal it if it gets shot at. Oh my gosh! what is going on?
Dude, there is some ish, dude. There is just some stuff going on.
Welcome to the AA5 speeder truck podcast.
I feel like we keep gushing over it.
I know.
Too, you know? like I feel so bad because people at home must be like, "You're talking about Empire today."
Yeah, I know,
It's
right?
true. It's true. We'll stay on target. But
What? We can't aim if we're Empire. We can't stay on target. That's
it's
not
all
a thing.
about it's the helmets.
Oh yeah, it's the helmet.
We have like the best pilots.
Blame the helmet. Yeah.
yeah.
Honey, it wasn't me. It was the medication.
Stop. Just had a really long day. Okay, I'm just tired.
He offered me the pills, and I chose the red one. I'm sorry.
That's the... I didn't even want to think what the other pill was.
Well, what else is blue? I almost sang the whistle, but whatever.
Stop. Okay.
I'm blue.
Ba-ba-dee-da-ba-die. Okay, Mr. Gav take. Stop. Mr. TX225 Gav W Occupier Combat Assault Tank.
Gosh dang it.
Okay. So here we go. What I'm excited about with it. I think transport and the new commander options are amazing.
Yes.
And just so people at home know how it works, the reason you're saving the points is because no matter what, you would have been spending points on a commander.
Yeah.
Minimum 50 or 60 for the generic. I think it's like 50. But now instead of 50, you can spend 10 and get price on there if you'd like.
It's a steep price.
Seems pretty good. And the best part is she can give aims to people you're transporting if you'd like. Free action, by the way, which is really good.
But wait, yeah, because she could be the pilot of the Gav, and then the Gav can still transport something like the E-Web or Death Troopers or Palpatine. Imagine. The list that I've been working on here, it actually has been involving E-Webs, because you can get a 10 activation list with 3 shores, 3 mortars, the T-21B, an E-Web with the linked targeting array, barrage generator, and then the Gav has just Governor Price onboard comms, and then you can still run 2 imp spec ops with the T-21s and offensive push. Seems good.
Seems really good. I mean, that's a lot of beef you've got there. You can even run it with double Gavs if you want, and give one of the Gavs, or even both, the additional weapons. In fact, let's talk about those real quick, because for those weapons, you have the DLT-19. We're very familiar. It's a range 4 weapon. It's the same one that you give to Stormtroopers, but this one costs 18 points. And then you have the RT-97C, again, same one you give to Stormtroopers, but this one costs 14 points, and it's a red and 3 white at range 4. So you can
there's no keywords with that one?
Not on that one.
Oh, yeah.
That one's just the more dice.
Right.
But depending on the pilot, because
Right,
you probably put that
exactly.
on the secondary Gav. So the one Gav has Price, the other Gav has the Hammer Elite. Or you can just run both Hammer Elites and run a generic commander.
Yeah.
In which case, you're getting Surge to hit, and that just is fantastic.
It does make me kind of sad that we probably won't get Price's ability like outside of a vehicle, like where just the token giving, not necessarily like units you're transporting or whatever. It would be kind of interesting to have that kind of synergy, like because if you wanted to run double Gav, which I've gone against like 2 or 3 people that have done that now, I started to see like a parade, like they do like Gav, and then they have like their commander on it, and then like an E-Web on the next one, and it's just like, is it Empire Day? They're just like marching through the whole table.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on?
Where's my Melu runs?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, agreed. It's crazy stuff, and I really like this. I really like this. I mean, I love the idea of transporting the E-Web just to make it this mobile firing platform, because the E-Web's surge crit, and so doing the numbers on it, you can get a really high number of hits.
It is kind of like the perfect parasitic match, where it's like The E-Web needed a little bit of a boost to get where it needed to go. The Gav needed something that made it worthwhile, and now it's just this symbiotic relationship. I think it is like the perfect pairing. The E-Web on top of the Gav.
Absolutely, especially because like you can still aim if you're in there, and if you're taking the onboard comms, like the whole point is just to pass those aim tokens.
Yeah.
So right here I've got the little dice rolly simulator. With those 2 aims, you're getting 4.8 hits out of the E-Web.
Wow.
And it's surging crits, so like you're gonna get through on stuff. So if you need anti-vehicle people, you've got the E-Webs. If you need to just take care of troopers, you've got the E-Webs. And if you're taking the heavy weapon on the Gav, you're averaging like 5 hits. If you take the RT-97C.
The E-Web can't fire support, can it?
No, I don't believe
Imagine
it can.
though. Imagine if the Gav shot and then the E-Web's like, yeah, I'm fire supporting it. Like, that'd be kind of nuts.
Oh, could you imagine that? Could you imagine?
Is that something that you think should happen or no?
I think that's a little strong.
A little overkill?
Yeah. I mean, and I say that because this past...
I say that lovingly, Gav.
I say that lovingly, but I also played against some clones this week, and they would just kept fire supporting shots, and I was taking average 10 to 14 hits per shot. So through cover, that means you lose entire units of B1. So maybe I'm just bitter. Maybe it's Maybelline.
Not bitter? Never.
I'm not actually all that bitter a lot. I'm usually pretty good about it, I think.
So anyways, guys, I was playing Dooku.
Go back to the good old days.
And every time I even bothered to move up, he just got shot immediately.
General Grievous dead, turn 2 to Death Troopers. No saves. On red dice. That was oh gosh. Yeah, there's some stuff. I'm very excited for the Gav. I think with it just being able to do all the transporting, all the repositioning. Arsenal 2 is not bad. Its guns are still not terrible. I mean, they're not great, especially when you're trying to get through cover. You're probably getting 1 or 2 hits through, unless you have the RT-97C. But there is some stuff going on.
Okay, so the final question then. I guess we already kind of touched on it with the E-Web and stuff, but when do you take the Gav?
I think the Gav, it's definitely something you could do for objectives. If you just want to kind of take a mobile gun platform and have fun, go for it. But I think especially now, it's something you need to look at for objective play to maybe block your opponents, because you can still get that reposition where you can move. And if you're able to, that's the thing we're talking about this. If you are able, you can block your opponents, give some cover, and then you still have guns on top that can shoot a lot. I think that's where you're doing it. Or if you want to have just a centerpiece to your army, or a cheap commander, a reason to be able to take... you can swap out your commander for something that shoots that well and has armor. Pretty decent.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to follow up on both of these peeps when the new vehicle comes out, because I think it's super interesting. Half of this discussion is the things coming out are going to be amazing for these vehicles. So we have to try it. So...
Yep. In fact, I've literally been thinking about playing the ATSD for the past couple weeks.
Matt, are you feeling okay?
I might be a little sick. Yeah, sick in the head.
You're looking like the color of your ATSD, all yellow and stuff.
Oh, see, I was so excited for that paint job.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's like some hazmat stuff.
Yeah, it's like a desert camo, but the yellow ended up coming out a little bit more mustard. So
Colonel mustard?
In the kitchen with the candlestick.
With the chicken strips.
What the heck?
Well, the way you said it just made me think of that meme.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, guys, that's about it for today. We have a little bit of a shorter episode for you, so we really appreciate you. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, there's some news that comes out. We're coming up on the release of these new units, so any day now we should get some more spoilers officially, anyway, because we've had a bunch of leaks, but. Any concluding words for the people back home?
I think just give some of these Empire things more looks. I think there's so many things going on in the Empire that people are just not thinking about. I think Stormtrooper spam with heavies and extra guys, or even captains, is a great thing. I mean, that's kind of why we're doing this, because there's a lot of old stuff that is very playable and very usable. So,
excellent.
Give it a look.
Yeah, and I trust you because I don't play Empire. So, this is the Matt Malovich podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Matt Malovich podcast. I'm Matt Malovich. Your co-host has been
Matt Malovich.
Our editor and director has been Kyle Campbell.
Matt Malovich, more like Matt Malobit.